Thanks for tuning into this gameplay overview. The game itself, Imperial Skies, can be played on anything from around a 4-foot by 4-foot up to a big lengthy 12-foot table if you wanted to, but you can get away with a 4-foot by 4-foot or a 6-foot by 4-foot play area. This isn't a blow-by-blow overview of a battle. Instead, I'm just diving into a few of the rules to avoid this going on for a good old half an hour of gameplay. So it's just to focus in on a couple of the key rules in terms of how you start the play, rolling for a command, and then you'd roll for initiative before players start to activate their ships, alternating between them. You're going to need to start with at least 9 or 10 ships on each side as a starting force side for your fleet, but you can go way up into the 30 airships a side if you like for a much larger fleet engagement. So at the start of the turn, each player will roll a d6 for command points, and here I'm just popping down those command points, which is those little star icons. These allow you to boost and apply various other different benefits to your ships in your fleet. So for example, if I put that one on there, I can use that to boost speed. I could also use it for repair. I can also use it to do a group move of several ships of a certain class together, of the same class, and I can use it to boost damage on gunfire as well. There are 5 classes of turn ruler, and the larger slow curved ruler like this one, which is marked with the inches of movement, everything's in inches by the way in the game, allows the much larger ships like this large battleship to make a slow, graceful curving movement. And here's a quick shot of the rules. In terms of the movement, you can see there the rulers represented, showing the larger ships moving at a slower curve and the small ones on a tight one. Profiles for ships are included in the rules, and you can see here this is a bigger battleship, a British one, which has quite a large set of hull points. 24 in fact is its hull points, and you can also see the 3 gun types: main guns, which are the red ones, medium guns, and the yellow guns, which are small guns. Also it's got a 7-inch total maximum speed there as well, represented by that engine icon. For simplicity, it's best to match your dice to the colour of the guns on the profiles, which means you can roll them all at the same time and easily identify the different damage ratings for them. I'm just randomly picking out a selection in here. This actual ship would have many more dice to roll, but I just get a small handful for the video. There's 3 easy to remember range bands, 10, 20 and 30 inches for main guns. Here you can see one of the quick reference guides from inside the rules, which will be available as a PDF as well for ease of play reference. Here's another one, the references for those 3 types of guns again, and it shows you at closer range you score on a lower number for the very big guns, right down to the small guns, which are the yellow dice, which will only ever damage on a roll of a 6 up to that 10-inch range. So me shooting at close range at a German airship here, I can see straight away none of those yellow dice have given me a 6, so that's a rather poor roll. However, I've got a 6 on the orange dice, which is the medium guns, and I have a 6 for the main guns. Those main guns at that short range would have scored a hit on 4, 5 or 6. So I can re-roll the orange and red dice because they scored 6. If it's a 6 you can roll again. Now that 3's not a hit, it would have been a 4, 5 or 6 on a red, and it would have been 5 or 6 on orange, so that's a 3rd hit. So that's 3 hits against the German airship. And you can see here with the reference card that you fill in the boxes. If you keep these, if you take photocopies of these cards which are in the rules, or print the PDF which will be provided, you can easily put them in sleeves or laminate them like I've done here, which allows you to reuse them and scribble on them as you do the damage. As those damage boxes fill up, you'll notice there's a minus point, and that's where the ships start to degrade. That minus goes off the speed, and every gun size class that the ship's got, so they will slowly degrade as the more damage is done to those hulls. At the beginning of every turn you roll a d6 plus 1 for your flagship in command points. These can be used to gamble on your initiative to improve it, but you can also use them for various different command actions by assigning the command points to the ships in your fleet. Here I've just rolled the attack dice for the German airship. It's an Emden class light cruiser, and with that roll of those dice I can see those 5s are a definite hit on the main guns. I haven't had any hits with the yellow because they're the light guns and they only hit on 6 out to 10 inches maximum range. But those orange ones, they will hit on a 5 or 6, so there's a hit from the medium guns. Now I was shooting at that large Britannia British ship in the centre. Oh, I've re-rolled the orange there, got another 6. So in fact you keep rolling. That's a miss. But that's 4 damage that's going inbound into that Britannia class British airship, and there we are. It has quite a lot of hull points there to slowly degrade. However, the rules have an abstract way of representing ship screening with smaller ships. So by taking that command point off a ship that's within 4 inches and of a smaller class than the Britannia, I can transfer those 4 damage, in fact it's up to 4 damage exactly, is the maximum transfer from that main ship over to the smaller class ship. So I fill the damage points on the smaller class ship that's within 4 inches. You'd have to use a command point that's pre-assigned to that airship though. You can't do that by grabbing a command point later in the turn, so it has to be pre-thought out strategy of knowing that you want to screen your larger airship at the start of your turn when you assign command points. I wanted to keep the basic rules as simple as possible, so altitude is in the book, but it's an optional rule because it will slow down the game and you'll need to keep a track on each airship of their altitude. So for those that want to take a bit more time on a game, they can use altitude, and we have on the ground, low altitude, cruising altitude or battle altitude, and then high altitude. Airships need to use some of their forward movement speed to gain an altitude. They don't need to do that if they're dropping altitude. In fact, they get a little speed boost when they're coming down. But gaining altitude, they've got to use some of their forward speed to go up. I'm just showing here that these 2 ships, in fact it could be up to 3 smaller class ships, are able to move as a group. So normally in the game turn you'd activate 1 ship at a time, make its movement and then it's shooting against the enemy. However, if you spend a command point you can do a group command action and move up to 3 ships for 1 command point. Again, you'd need to assign that command point at the beginning of the turn to one of the 3 ships in the group, or 2 ships in this case. The command point is spent at the time that you activate the ship to do the group move. I could change my mind later in a turn, so by putting that command point on there, I could actually decide to boost the move of one of those airships, or screen, or any other option. It's just that when I activate it, I've got to choose at that time what I want to use that command point for. Carriers can be used and they can launch fighters up to a range of 4 inches. They can also land fighters and take 1 turn to complete some repairs on a fighter group before they're relaunched again. Aircraft have yellow dice, small guns only, and in fact they can only shoot out to that 10-inch range, and also there's a limit to what class size of airships they can fire on because their small size weaponry is only of limited use against the bigger ships. Also it's the small guns, those yellow guns on the airships, which are used as anti-aircraft fire and flak against the fighters coming in. So far I've had the ships on the smaller bases, but you can see there's various different size bases you can use, and this British carrier is mounted on a Corsec engineering base, which has the larger size hex at the bottom. Even though I've got a large base, I'm still using the turning ruler up against the flat front side of the hex, and any movement would be along that ruler using the front side position, so you don't put the back of the base to the distance it's moved, it's the front. The firing arc is 45 degrees arc, and I'm just showing you that firing from that one, I'm shooting at one of these German airships, and you can see straight away it's a fixed wing airship, but you can see that it's clearly within the broadside. If you're within the front arc, there's a penalty to the dice rolled, which reduce the impact of that forward arc firing. So it's always important to try and get, especially your bigger ships, into a decent broadside position to maximize the damage potential. So there you can see I'm now in the fore arc of that British carrier. Just a reminder that I'm actually not playing the game here, I just moved that fixed wing airship into the front arc, just to show you where falling into the front arc would be in a normal game if that was where the movement ended up. And there's a reference card again showing the different gun types which I'd use to determine the amount of dice I'd roll. Here's another base option, which is a telescopic type of base. Again, that's available from Corsair Engineering, and I've got my 3-prong fighter base on top of that. And just a reminder again, in fact, that even though I've got only 3 fighters on there, it's actually a group of 6 are in a wing. I just happen to mount them up on a base with just 3, even though it's a wing of 6. These are the rulers, and you can see we've got every one of the different size classes there. There's 5 different size classes, so I'm missing just the small one. And here it comes. And you can see there generally those smaller airships are going to be able to make a very nice small tight turn on that small ruler and easily get a broadside in against opponent airships, whereas again those bigger ships, because they have that lumbering curve, graceful, not lumbering, which they make, it means it's much harder for them to get a broadside in, which is vital in terms of being able to deliver the maximum ordnance onto target enemy airships. There's ever so slightly different rules for zeppelins and dirigibles, and you can see here, or blimps, and you can see here that I'm just demonstrating you can go up an altitude whilst not having to move forward when you're in a zeppelin style airship. Those optional altitude rules are there for those that want the extra detail. And just showing again, that's from the Japanese nation. You can see there's quite a nice varied range of airships available. We have bombing rules in the book. Where else would they be? And here's a British Hayworth bomber. So you could bomb around targets in terms of building scenarios. You may go in and you want to be bombing an airbase or something. So those bombers do play a role. And again, there's the British carrier. Oh, and here I'm just showing one vital thing. Measurement is from pillar to pillar, so when you're actually firing guns, it doesn't matter what the base size is because you measure from one pillar to the other pillar for determining ranges. So thanks for making it all the way through to the end here, and here's a couple of airships, and again showing that pillar to pillar range measurement. So thanks for listening in. Please do pledge, that support is very much appreciated. Thank you and goodbye.